At nearly 17,000 miles per hour, about 27,000 kilometers per hour, Starship doesn't gently return to Earth, it collides with the atmosphere like a meteor that refuses to burn up. In that violent instant, the air ahead of it stops behaving like air and becomes plasma, a superheated electrically charged fluid where temperatures surge past 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit, or roughly 1,500 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to weaken steel, hot enough to erase most materials we rely on in everyday engineering. And yet, this massive stainless steel vehicle is expected to endure that environment, not once, but repeatedly, flight after flight, without being rebuilt from scratch. That expectation creates a problem so extreme that traditional spacecraft design doesn't really have a clean answer for it. Historically, the solution has always been sacrifice. Burn away the heat shield, let it erode, let it carry the heat with it, just like the ablative shields used during Apollo missions launched on Saturn V, where every reentry consumed part of the spacecraft itself. Or take the Space Shuttle approach, covering the vehicle in delicate ceramic tiles that could survive the heat but demanded obsessive maintenance and introduced their own failure risks. Neither of those approaches scale to a future where a single spacecraft might fly dozens, even hundreds of times, potentially multiple times per day. That forces engineers into a completely different mindset, where the goal is no longer just survival, but endurance, not just protection, but control. And that's where one of the most ambitious thermal protection ideas ever considered for a full-scale spacecraft begins to emerge. A system that doesn't simply block heat or absorb it, but actively fights it by forming a protective coolant layer, a system known as transpiration cooling. At first glance, the idea sounds almost too simple. Push a coolant through a surface so that it seeps out and forms a protective barrier between the vehicle and the surrounding plasma, a thin layer of fluid that absorbs heat, carries it away, and prevents the structure underneath from ever reaching dangerous temperatures. Almost like the vehicle is sweating under extreme stress. Except this isn't happening at ground level. It's happening at hypersonic speeds under immense pressure across a surface area measured in thousands of square feet. And suddenly, that simple idea becomes one of the most complex engineering challenges in modern aerospace. Because the environment Starship experiences during reentry is not just hot, it's chaotic, unpredictable, and brutally unforgiving. As it descends through the upper atmosphere at Mach 20 or higher, the air compresses violently at the leading surfaces, forming shock waves that heat the gas to the point where molecules break apart. Oxygen dissociates, nitrogen becomes reactive, electrons are stripped away, creating a plasma sheath that can even interfere with communications and behaves nothing like the air we experience at ground level. Within this environment, the heat flux at certain points, especially the stagnation regions where airflow comes to a near stop relative to the vehicle, can exceed 1 megawatt per square meter. That's an energy intensity comparable to industrial cutting torches, but sustained over large areas. And unlike a compact capsule that concentrates this heating on a small shield, Starship spreads that thermal load across its entire windward side because of its unique belly-first reentry profile. That maneuver is designed to maximize drag and reduce peak heating by increasing surface area, which sounds like an advantage until you realize it means every part of that exposed surface must be protected at the same time. Every panel, every seam, every interface. And that's where transpiration cooling shifts from a clever concept to a massive logistical challenge. To make it work, you need a surface that is both structurally strong and microscopically porous. It has to withstand aerodynamic forces, vibration, and thermal stress, while allowing a controlled flow of coolant to pass through countless tiny channels. Those channels must be distributed with extreme precision, because uneven flow means uneven cooling, and uneven cooling at hypersonic temperatures can quickly escalate into localized overheating and structural failure. Then there's the coolant itself. In Starship's case, this isn't some exotic dedicated fluid. It's the same cryogenic propellants the vehicle already carries, primarily liquid methane stored at around minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 162 degrees Celsius. That temperature difference compared to the surrounding plasma is enormous, which creates both an opportunity and a challenge. Because when that super cold fluid reaches the hot surface, it doesn't just warm up, it undergoes rapid phase change.
It boils almost instantly, expands, and forms a gaseous layer that enhances the protective barrier, effectively insulating the structure from direct contact with the plasma flow. That's the theory. But controlling that phase change across a dynamic, high-speed environment is incredibly difficult. The rate of heat transfer changes constantly with altitude, velocity, and orientation. That means the cooling system has to continuously adapt, delivering just the right amount of fluid to the right locations. Too little, and the surface overheats. Too much, and you waste valuable propellant or disrupt the airflow in ways that could destabilize the vehicle. This balancing act has to happen in real time, with almost no margin for error. And unlike the internal cooling channels used in rocket engines, where flow paths are well defined and conditions are relatively controlled, transpiration cooling operates right at the interface between the vehicle and the external environment. It's exposed to all the chaos of hypersonic flight, which introduces additional complications like flow instabilities, pressure fluctuations, and the constant risk of clogging within the porous material itself. Those microscopic channels can become obstructed by debris, chemical residues, or even structural changes caused by repeated thermal cycling. And if even a small region stops working properly, it can create a hotspot that spreads rapidly under sustained heating, turning a minor defect into a critical failure point. That's why implementing transpiration cooling at scale isn't just a fluid dynamics problem, it's a materials science problem. Engineers need surfaces that maintain consistent porosity while still being strong enough to handle extreme loads. That likely involves advanced manufacturing techniques like sintered metals or additive manufacturing, where internal structures can be precisely controlled at the microscopic level. But even with those tools, ensuring uniform performance across an entire spacecraft remains a huge challenge. And that's exactly why Starship doesn't rely on this system alone.
Instead, it primarily uses a highly advanced thermal protection layer made up of hexagonal ceramic tiles covering the windward side. These tiles are designed to reflect heat and provide a strong baseline level of protection. They represent years of engineering refinement, optimized for reusability and thermal resistance. But they're not perfect. Early test flights have already shown that tiles can be lost or damaged, exposing the underlying structure to extreme heating. And while the system is improving, relying entirely on tiles introduces maintenance challenges and potential failure modes that are difficult to eliminate, especially for higher energy reentries, like those returning from the Moon or eventually from Mars. That's where transpiration cooling starts to reveal its real strategic value, not as a complete replacement, but as a powerful complementary system, something that can reinforce critical areas, provide additional protection where heating is most intense, or act as a backup if tiles are compromised. In other words, instead of depending on a single perfect solution, SpaceX is layering multiple systems together. And that layered approach represents a deeper shift in spacecraft design philosophy. It's a move away from single solution protection toward integrated systems that can adapt and compensate for each other. Within that framework, transpiration cooling becomes more than just a thermal management technique. It becomes a key enabler for true rapid reusability. Because if engineers can actively control heat, even in targeted regions, they reduce reliance on purely passive materials. They simplify turnaround processes. They move closer to a world where a spacecraft can be inspected, refueled, and launched again in a fraction of the time we're used to today. And that's the real goal here. Not just surviving reentry, but doing it in a way that supports high flight cadence and long-term durability, turning spacecraft from experimental machines into reliable transportation systems. When you zoom out, the implications are massive. A system capable of handling repeated high-energy reentries without major refurbishment is exactly what's needed for sustained operations beyond Earth orbit. Regular missions to the Moon, cargo and crew transport to Mars, entirely new space infrastructure that depends on frequent, cost-effective access to space.
Suddenly, transpiration cooling isn't just an interesting concept, it becomes a foundational piece of the puzzle. But it's important to stay grounded in reality. Right now, this technology is still under development and consideration. There are still unknowns. Engineers are actively testing, refining materials, optimizing fluid distribution, and analyzing real flight data to understand how these systems behave under actual reentry conditions. Because no simulation can fully capture that environment. Every flight provides new insights, every anomaly reveals something that needs to be improved, and progress comes in increments, not breakthroughs. That's the nature of cutting-edge engineering. And in many ways, the development of transpiration cooling reflects the broader philosophy behind Starship itself: rapid prototyping, aggressive testing, and a willingness to learn from failure. The final thermal protection system is still evolving, but the direction is clear. There is a shift happening from passive resistance to active management, from systems that endure damage to systems that help prevent it. And that shift has huge implications for the future of spaceflight design, because it points toward vehicles that are not only reusable, but robust enough to handle the harsh realities of spaceflight with minimal intervention. As Starship continues to evolve, each reentry becomes more than just a test. It becomes a demonstration of how far this technology has come and how close it is to unlocking its full potential. And when that moment finally arrives, when a spacecraft can plunge through the atmosphere at hypersonic speeds, endure extreme heating, land, and then do it all again with minimal turnaround, it won't just be an engineering milestone. It'll be a turning point. A shift from an era defined by expendability and caution to one defined by sustainability and routine operations. And at the heart of that shift will be innovations like transpiration cooling, quietly working beneath the surface where applied, managing heat in ways that once seemed impractical, enabling capabilities that once felt out of reach. Because sometimes the most powerful engineering solutions aren't about resisting forces, they're about controlling them, shaping them, using them to your advantage. And that's exactly what transpiration cooling aims to do, turning the very heat that threatens the vehicle into something that can be managed, mitigated, and ultimately overcome. If that vision becomes reality, it won't just improve Starship, it will redefine what's possible in spaceflight. And if you want more deep dives like this into the real engineering behind Starship, Saturn V, and the future of spaceflight, make sure to subscribe to Rocketry and follow us on Facebook and Rumble.